Part 2. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 11. Although the regent held great power, he had no interest in the struggle for the throne, so he never participated in the forces of any prince, allowing them to fight to the death. If the regent had not turned a blind eye, the third prince would not have been able to get the support of most of the court officials so smoothly. If Rongyu expressed his opinion, all the princes would be instantly crushed into slag. Since the regent did not interfere with the ownership of the crown prince, and the emperor's health was getting worse and worse, and he was basically in a confused state in the later period, the ministers recommended the third prince to him one after another as wise and virtuous and capable of taking on the great responsibility. When even the queen mother supported the third prince, the emperor naturally had no reason to oppose. In the winter of the 34th year of Emperor Jing, the emperor passed away, and the third prince Rong Chuiyun ascended the throne, with the title of Emperor Huai, and the next year was the first year of Emperor Huai. That year, the regent was 21 years old, already the youngest regent in the history of the Great Zhou, 2 years younger than the newly succeeded emperor. That year, Nan 11 was 14 years old, and her relationship with Gu Qingshu became more stable. The new emperor ascended the throne, pardoned the world, and rewarded meritorious officials. As a staff member of the third prince's mansion, Gu Qingshu made the greatest contribution in the third prince's fight for the throne, and naturally became the new favorite of the emperor. The year after the new emperor ascended the throne, that is, the autumn of the first year of Emperor Huai, Gu Qingshu made a big splash in the palace examination. His article on governing the country won the applause of the whole hall, and he was immediately selected by the new emperor as the new champion. That year, Nan 11 was 15 years old, and Gu Qingshu was just in his early 20s, but he was already full of vigor and vitality. Who among the powerful and noble sons in the imperial capital did not envy him? Nan 11 was really proud of him and happy for him. She had planned to pave a smooth career path for him. The 15-year-old girl had reached the age of marriage, and that year was also the time for them to discuss marriage. The newly crowned champion Gu Qingshu went to the Prime Minister's mansion to propose marriage. The Prime Minister had long been very satisfied with the son-in-law. The father-in-law and son-in-law naturally hit it off and quickly agreed on an auspicious date and decided to hold the wedding in February of the following year. However, after the Chinese New Year, before she had time to prepare for the wedding, Nan 11 was forcibly taken to the palace by the regent with an order and never came out again. To be fair, Rongyu treated her very well. But Nan 11's heart was tied to Gu Qingshu. The girl was also straightforward. In addition, she was born in the Prime Minister's mansion, a noble family. She had never been afraid of anyone in these years, and naturally she was not polite to the regent. So when she first entered the regent's mansion, she quarreled, made a scene, and went on a hunger strike to protest, but the regent was unmoved. He only arranged for maids to serve her carefully, and doctors to be on call around the clock. Top-quality silk materials and precious jewelry were sent to her as soon as possible, but they were always thrown away by Nan 11 without mercy. Then, Nan Yu took the initiative to ask for an audience. Nan 11 knew about this sister, but as the eldest daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion, she always disdained the sister born to the woman her father raised outside. But this time was different. After being trapped in the regent's mansion for half a month, it was the first time that someone she knew came to see her, and it was rare that the regent was willing to let the sisters meet. Later, Nan 11 learned that Nan Yu had promised in front of the regent that she could properly guide her sister. Rongyu probably had no other tricks, so she agreed to let Nan Yu in. However, Nan 11 thought Nan Yu brought her good news and hope, but she never expected that it was a pair of devil's claws that sent her to hell. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 12. From the moment Nan Yu first stepped into the regent's palace, Nan 11 fell completely into the trap of Nan Yu and Gu Qingshu. They appeased and used her step by step. During the more than 1 year she stayed in the regent's palace, they used various means of appeasement, trickery, and deception to obtain a lot of intelligence from the regent's palace, and then step by step weakened the power of the regent. Now Nan 11 thinks about it, and wonders how stupid she was at the time. How deeply did she love Gu Qingshu? Did she like him to the point of being desperate, so that he could make such calculations? Of course, behind all the conspiracies and calculations, the real mastermind is simply the current emperor. The regent holds great power, and the newly crowned emperor sees him as a thorn in his side, especially during the competition among the princes for the throne. He repeatedly showed goodwill, but the young uncle was never moved. Rong Chuiyun was resentful and wary of the military power in his hands, so he took advantage of Nan 11's love for Gu Qingshu and her advantage in being in the regent's mansion, and naturally launched a conspiracy. Nan 11 will never forget the siege of the regent's palace. In the flames that reached the sky, Nan Yu smiled proudly but innocently. "Sister, brother Qingshu is a pillar of the court, but you have already lost your innocence and become a broken flower and a withered willow. Do you think you are worthy of him? If brother Qingshu really marries you, he will become a laughing stock of the whole world. How can he gain a foothold in the court in the future? So sister, you'd better die." At the last moment when the dagger pierced her chest, the bloody man flew over, like a god descending from the sky, kicked Nan Yu away, and held Nan 11 firmly in his arms. Nan 11 clearly heard the shrill screams of Nan Yu, who was kicked into the fire, but she had no time to pay attention. She just stared at him in a daze. The face that was always noble and elegant was stained with blood. His eyes were as cold as a ghost from the abyss of hell. He killed people with cruel means, and one move was a life. Almost all the people sent by the emperor to strangle him died in his hands. Although he was exhausted, he still held her tightly in his arms. At that moment, Nan 11 suddenly realized that the end of Regent Rongyu was entirely caused by her. He was aloof and arrogant, and never knew what it meant to bow his head. Whether it was the previous emperor or the new emperor, he had never kneeled down to worship. He was as noble as a white crane in the sky, like a blue dragon flying in the four seas, and was not bound by any rules. Although he was born in the royal family, he never had the idea of being loyal to the emperor. He always did not offend others if others did not offend me, but if others offended me, even if it was the emperor, he would never show mercy. If it weren't for her, how could Rong Yu, who held military power, fall into such a situation? Rong Yu. She looked at him with grief in her eyes hot. "I am such a despicable and shameless person, what virtue can I have to make you like this?" His expression was as indifferent as ever, and even revealed a certain persistence. "You are not." "Not what?" Nan 11 laughed at herself. Isn't she a despicable person? But she is clearly a stupid and despicable person, who has brought the most powerful war god prince of the great Zhou to such a state. Arrows flew all over the sky, densely packed, as if they were all surrounded in an airtight abyss, with no escape, and could only face death. After entering the regent's palace for more than a year, she hated Rong Yu and had never been so close to him. Unexpectedly, at the last moment of her life, she could stay in his arms peacefully and be protected by him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 13. Although she still had to die in the end, she said in her heart when she closed her eyes, "If there is an afterlife, if God has mercy. Rong Yu, I will never plot against you again, I will spend my whole life to atone for my sins." Puff. The sound of sharp arrows piercing into the flesh came, blood splashed, and the warm touch made Nan 11 open her eyes. Rong Yu hugged her with one hand. He was already exhausted and could not resist the arrows flying like a net. No matter how powerful he was just a flesh and blood body. Nan 11's eyes became hotter and hotter. Rong Yu, you are such a noble and arrogant person, how good it would be if you were not plotted. How could the insidious emperor be your opponent? His Majesty the Emperor had carefully prepared for this night for a long time. He knew better than anyone that even if the imperial guards were dispatched, the regent could not be easily captured. Therefore, almost all the archers in the army came out, just to put the regent to death in one fell swoop. Just let Nan 11 be buried with him, but I don't know whether it was the emperor's idea or Gu Qingshu's request. But it doesn't matter anymore. When they both fell to the ground, Nan 11 held Rong Yu's face, and tears dripped on his neck. The man raised his hand and gently wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes, but the more he wiped, the more tears came. Don't cry. She broke down and cried, heartbroken, Rong Yu, I hurt you, I hurt you. Her tears fell into the bathtub, and a breeze blew in from the slightly opened window. Nan 11's skin was slightly cold and she woke up instantly. She raised her hand to wipe away the water stains from the corners of her eyes and sighed softly. What an unpleasant memory. She stood up and stepped out of the bathtub, dried her body, put on a soft and loose nightgown, and walked barefoot to the bronze mirror, looking at the reflection of a girl's beautiful and delicate face in the mirror. 16 years old is the best time in a woman's life. Nan 11 curled her lips. She should be thankful that many tragedies have not happened yet. The new emperor has ascended the throne and is still young. It is a dream for him to plot against Rong Yu in this life. As for Gu Qingshu's career, let it end here. People like him are only worthy of being a servant. Miss the maid walked into the inner hall in a panic and took out Nan 11's embroidered shoes. Why don't you wear shoes? What if you catch a cold? Nan 11 was about to speak when a man in a black robe walked in from outside the hall. He saw Nan 11 standing barefoot in front of the mirror, frowned slightly, and walked up to her quickly and hugged her. Prince Nan 11 turned her head to look at him, and raised the corners of her lips slightly. I'm not cold. We haven't gotten married yet, you can't write a divorce letter yet. There was no expression on his noble and handsome face, and Rong Yu's voice sounded dull. So if you want to write a divorce letter to this king, you have to get married first. Nan 11 was stunned, and then she remembered what she said to him when she just woke up in the morning. He had such a long reaction time that he only realized at night that a divorce letter can only be written between husband and wife. Rong Yu, she smiled lightly, with a hint of sigh, do you like me? If he didn't like me, how could he let her scheme in his previous life? What kind of woman did he, the regent, want that he couldn't get, and he had to use tough means to trap her in the palace, and finally ended up with a miserable ending because of her. Rong Yu's eyes dimmed slightly, and he silently held her and walked into the inner hall, and hummed inaudibly. Why? Nan 11 asked, I have no other advantages except my face. What do you like about me? Rong Yu put her on the bed, pursed his lips, you are very good. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 14. Very good. These two words sounded like perfunctory words, but they brought Nan 11 an inexplicable throbbing. After living a new life, she seemed to have learned to feel with her heart. Rong Yu was not good at sweet talk. His words "you are very good" were much more sincere than Gu Qingshu's moving poems in his previous life. At least, he was a person who would rather let the arrows shoot into his body to protect her. Although he failed to protect her in the end, he had tried his best. If she hadn't brought it upon herself, well, if she hadn't brought it upon herself, how could she see the human heart clearly and see whether she liked people or animals in her previous life? After a day of tossing and turning, Nan 11 woke up from a dream again. She was soon overwhelmed by sleepiness while lying on the bed. However, a vague doubt emerged in her mind before she fell asleep. When did Rong Yu start to like her? When she had a chance in the future, she would definitely ask. Nan Yu was still in a coma when she was sent to the Gu mansion. She fainted from the pain after being kicked away by Rong Yu. In order to prevent her from talking nonsense, Qingyang gave her some drugs. When she was sent to the Gu family at dawn, it naturally caused a lot of commotion. After getting Nan 11's explanation, Qingyang naturally exaggerated the story that Nan Yu pretended to have a deep sisterly love but actually had evil intentions and came to assassinate Nan 11, and coldly asked Gu Qingshu for the crime. My prince is furious, please give a reasonable explanation for this matter, Master Gu. After leaving this sentence, he turned around and left, not caring how his words would be understood. Gu Qingshu was shocked and hurriedly asked a doctor to come and treat Nan Yu, wanting to get the truth from her. However, he didn't know what drug Qingyang gave her. The doctor tried everything, but Nan Yu was still unconscious. Rumors began to ferment, and Qingyang did not forget to go to the Prime Minister's mansion to inform Nan Yu of the fact that Nan 11 had assassinated Nan 11. After causing a great uproar in the Prime Minister's mansion, he also waved his sleeves and left without waiting for the Prime Minister to ask about the general situation. Your hand injury has not healed yet. Rong Yu lowered his head to tie her belt, and his deep black eyes fell on her arm covered by wide sleeves. Can't you wait until the injury is healed before going back? Nan 11 raised her eyes and looked at his beautiful face that was almost like a demon, and raised her eyebrows slightly. Only by going back with injuries can the best effect be achieved. Rong Yu stopped talking. I will not abandon the prince. Nan 11 stretched out her arms to wrap around his thin waist, smelling the clear and clean breath on his body. In this life, Nan 11 is yours in life and death. Don't talk nonsense. Rong Yu's eyes turned dark, and he raised his hand to her lips. Whoever dares to hurt you, this king will make him live a life worse than death. Nan 11 smiled lightly. Okay. Whoever dares to hurt you, I can also make him live a life worse than death. God has mercy on her and given her a chance to be reborn. Isn't it to seek justice for them in their previous lives? Nan 11 dressed up and walked out of the gate of the regent's palace under the personal escort of Rong Yu. The carriage was ready, and Rong Yu also prepared 4 maids with strong martial arts skills for her, as well as 16 expert guards. Nan 11 looked at the scene in front of her and twitched her mouth. Aren't there too many people? You don't like it? Rong Yu pursed his lips, and his profile was tense. They can protect you. Nan 11 shook her head. I don't dislike it, but there are too many people. Paused. How about taking half? 2 maids, 8 guards. Rong Yu was silent for a moment and nodded. I'll listen to you. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 15. Nan 11 brought 2 maids with her, one named Yin Yu and the other named Yin Shuang. Yin Yu was more lively, while Yin Shuang was taciturn. Both of them were well-trained warriors with strong skills. The 8 guards were also strong characters, but when there was no danger, their role was just to show off. Nan 11 got on the carriage and went to the Prime Minister's mansion accompanied by a large number of guards. The guards outside the gate of the Prime Minister's mansion saw her get off the carriage and their eyes widened instantly. Miss. Nan 11 stood on the ground with both feet and nodded to the guard. Xiao, I will report to the Prime Minister immediately. The guard was incoherent. He really didn't expect that the eldest lady who was trapped in the mansion by the regent would suddenly come back. Mr. Gu is here too. Gu Qingshu is here too. Nan 11 smiled faintly. Yes. No need to report. Nan 11 brushed the wide sleeves of her ice blue silk skirt, and said in a light tone, I'll go in by myself and give my parents a surprise. The guard heard this and had not yet fully recovered. Yes, miss, go slowly and be careful. Nan 11 stepped into the gate and looked at the mansion in front of her that she had not seen for a long time. It seemed that, She had not been back for a long time. Her past and present lives, her memories were intertwined again. Nan 11 closed her eyes, opened them again, and walked slowly in. Miss, a maid who was cleaning was so surprised that she dropped the broom in her hand. Miss is back. Nan 11 turned her head to look at her and smiled lightly. Is it strange that I'm back? No. No. Where are my father and Gu Qingshu? Song Haewan. Nan 11 was silent for a moment. For the people in the mansion, she had only been away from the Xiongfu for more than a month, but for her, it was a long experience in her past and present lives. After sorting out her thoughts, she did not hesitate and went straight to the direction of Song Haewan. This must be a plot of the regent to sow discord in the hall of Song Haewan. Gu Qingshu, dressed in a royal blue brocade robe, swore, I promise that I never asked Nanyu to assassinate Zaimei. Zaimei is my wife. How could I do such a thing? Nan 11 paused outside the door, her eyebrows cold. I don't want to know the truth for the time being. I just want to know how 11er is now. The anxious woman's voice sounded, with clear visible worry and anxiety. Is she seriously injured? Did the regent hire a doctor for her? Prime Minister, 11er is your daughter. She was injured in the regent's mansion, and you are indifferent. Nan 11 was stunned, and her heart couldn't help but feel sour. This was her mother, the only relative in the world who truly loved her without asking for anything in return. But in her previous life, she was so devoted to Gu Qingshu that she almost forgot how much harm her father's romantic nature had brought to her mother, and almost forgot that her mother's life was not actually good. Nan Xingzi frowned. What do you want me to do? Go to the regent's mansion to ask for someone. This. Gu Qingshu's expression changed slightly, and he bowed. Father-in-law, please think twice. Think twice about what? Madame Nan looked at him coldly. Nan 11 is almost dead, can't we go and take her back? That's not what I meant, Gu Qingshu said, although I am also worried about Sister 11, the regent is a moody and ruthless person. What if he is angered and he hurts Sister 11 even more? So what? Madame Nan sneered, can we let 11er stay in the regent's mansion? Gu Qingshu, 11er is your fiancée and she is devoted to you. If you really dare to hurt her, I will be the first one to not forgive you. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 16. Gu Qingshu's face changed slightly, and he lowered his head and promised, Mother-in-law, please rest assured, my son-in-law will never harm Sister X even if he hurts himself. Really, a voice that was neither salty nor mild came from outside the hall. The three of them turned their heads when they heard the sound, and then their eyes widened in unison. 11er. Mrs. Nan was the first to rush out and looked Nan 11 up and down. How are you, 11er? Have you suffered any grievances these days? Has the regent bullied you? What happened with yesterday's assassination? Were you hurt? Where is it? I'm scared to death, please show me. Mom, I'm fine. Nan 11 took the initiative to hug her mother and comforted her softly. I'm fine, I made my mother worried. Gu Qingshu looked at her in shock. Zaimei, how did you? Why did I come back suddenly? Nan 11 let go of her mother and turned to look at him. I heard that my father was going to bring Nanyu and her daughter into the house, so I came back in person to see what was going on. Nan Xiang was also wondering why she came back so suddenly. When he heard these words, A look of embarrassment and anger immediately appeared on his face. How do you know about this? As the prime minister of a country, not only did he have many wives and concubines in his house, but he also blatantly raised an outside wife, and now he had to bring the mother and daughter of the outside wife into the house. This was obviously not a glorious thing. Nan 11 said calmly, originally I didn't know, but Nan, you went to the regent's palace yesterday in the name of visiting me and really showed off, as if I, the legitimate daughter, had completely fallen out of favor. I argued with her a few times. She actually stabbed me with a dagger. Fortunately, the regent kicked her away, otherwise it would be hard to say whether I would still be alive today. As soon as these words came out, Mrs. Nan was furious. What? Nan, you's little bitch dared to stab you. I had to chop her dash. Mom, Nan 11 interrupted her with a smile. Although she was a little surprised by her mother's fiery temperament, it was fine. People who are good will be bullied, and horses will be ridiculed. If her mother is a soft persimmon, these Nian probably didn't know what her father would do to her. Nanyu was injured by the regent. Qing Yang, the guard of the regent's palace, sent her to Gu's mansion in the morning. Having said this, she turned to look at Gu Qingshu. Since Nanyu has been sent to your mansion, Qingshu, please take good care of her. Gu Qingshu's expression changed. Sister 11, if men and women don't have sex, what's the point of sending her to my house? Otherwise, where would we send her? Nan 11 looked at him with a faint smile. She can't even get in through the Nan family gate. As long as I'm around, she will always be an outsider. Gu Qingshu's expression suddenly changed. Looking at Nan 11, whose temperament suddenly changed, he was a little surprised and asked, May 11, what's wrong with you? Mrs. Nan also looked at her daughter in surprise. She didn't quite understand why she had such a tough attitude in front of Gu Qingshu, and she completely lost her previous admiration. But Nan 11 like this made her feel at ease. Mrs. Nan is someone who has been through this before. She has never been optimistic about Gu Qingshu, but there is nothing she can do about her daughter liking Gu Qingshu, just like when she fell in love with Nan Xingzi wholeheartedly. What is the result? Nan Xingzi was so affectionate when he was poor and penniless. He wished he could hold her in his hands and hold her in his mouth, but once he became successful and famous, who could stop him from changing his heart? Beautiful concubines were brought into the house one after another, and now even the women who were raised outside wanted to enter the house. Does he still have in his eyes the wife who had devoted everything to help him come to Beijing to take the exam? Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 17. She knew that her background as a merchant made Nan Xingzi, who was the prime minister, embarrassed. He felt that she was no longer worthy of him. If it weren't for the relationship between Nan 11 and Gu Qingshu, she, the wife of a merchant, might have resigned long ago. Oh no, he might have persisted for a while longer. Because she still held huge wealth in her hands, he hinted many times, openly or secretly, that she should hand over several shops in the capital to his concubines to manage, euphemistically saying that it was time for her to enjoy a rest. Mrs. Nan just wanted to give him a slap in the face. It is said that there is no businessman without treachery. But she, a woman with a serious business background, was cunning and shameless in front of Nan Xingzi, but she was willing to be inferior. But she's not hopelessly stupid, her husband is unreliable, and she has a daughter. Her daughter was a piece of flesh that fell from her body, and was her last relative in this world. She loved her as much as a treasure, and no one could take away her inheritance except her daughter. Nan Xingzi wants to take advantage of her shop. I'm afraid that if she hands over the shop, she will propose the favored concubine in the house as his wife. Do you really think she doesn't know what he is planning? Over the years, Mrs. Nan has seen through Nan Xingzi's character, and in her opinion, Gu Qingshu is the same. If he really likes 11er, then he should rely on his own ability to seek a bright future. What kind of ability does a manly man rely on his father-in-law's power and wealth to get promoted and make a fortune? I'm afraid that in the future, a highly respected minister will also abandon his wretched wife and become romantically involved. I didn't do anything. Nan 11 spoke in a calm and steady tone. The news that Nan Yu stabbed me has been spread outside. I was afraid that my parents would be worried, so I asked the regent to let me come back and stay with my mother for a few days. Sky. As she spoke, she pointed to Yin Yu and Yin Shuang who were standing outside. The regent also sent someone to protect me. Protect. Gu Qingshu's heart moved slightly, wondering whether it was protection or supervision. Nan 11's tone and attitude of speaking today are very different from before. Did she mean to tell the two maids outside? If this is the case, it can be explained. Nan Xiang had the same idea as him. He glanced at the two maids outside calmly and said calmly, "Did the regent treat you harshly?" "No, the regent is very good to me," Nan 11 said. "Father, please rest assured." "Really?" Gu Qingshu breathed a sigh of relief. How much did Nan 11 hate the regent before? How could you say something good about him? So these words were deliberately spoken to the two people outside. But Gu Qingshu's mood was still a little gloomy. The fact that Nan Yu was sent to his residence left him speechless. He had just arrived at the Prime Minister's residence, and rumors were already spreading outside. Qing Yang, the bodyguard of the regent's palace, directly arranged for several people to spread the news that the Prime Minister's daughter Nanyu brought a dagger to the regent's palace. On the grounds of the deep love between sisters, she hoped that her sister would allow her and her mother to enter the Prime Minister's palace to recognize their ancestors. Nan 11 only said to think about it, but Nan Yu stabbed her biological sister with a dagger when she disagreed. Fortunately, the regent came to the rescue, otherwise the dignified daughter of the Prime Minister's palace would have died. The rumor spread from one to another, and it evolved into several versions in just one morning. At the end, it was directly stated that Gu Qingshu was affectionate on the lips, but secretly he had already had a passionate relationship with Nan Yu, and even instigated Nan Yu to assassinate her sister. As long as Nan 11 dies, his marriage to Nan 11 will naturally fall through. Gu Qingshu will not have to wait for Nan 11 who has lost his reputation due to his affection and gentlemanly demeanor. Moreover, if Nan Yu can successfully recognize her ancestor and return to the clan, she will not have any trouble at all. Delaying him from becoming the Prime Minister's son-in-law was really a good plan. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 18. Gu Qingshu was so angry that his face turned green when he heard the messy rumors outside. He was afraid that this matter would cause dissatisfaction with the Prime Minister, so he hurried to explain without doing anything. However, before he finished speaking, Nan 11 came back. Sister 11. Gu Qingshu pursed his lips, looking affectionate. "I have wronged you these days. I am useless. You are indeed useless." Nan 11 interrupted him calmly. "Gu Qingshu, let's cancel the engagement." "What?" Gu Qingshu's face changed. Sister 11. Prime Minister Nan and Madam Nan were also stunned. "You should have understood what I said." Nan 11 looked at him with disgust in her eyes. "We were only verbally engaged, and we didn't sign a marriage certificate. It's good for you and me to cancel the engagement." Sister 11. Gu Qingshu came back to his senses and heard Nan 11's serious tone. He was flustered and grabbed her shoulders in a hurry. "Sister 11, what's wrong with you? Did the regent threaten you? Or did he forced you?" Thinking of a certain possibility, Gu Qingshu's eyes were gloomy, but his face was gentle and distressed. "Sister 11, I know that everything was forced on you by the regent. It's not your fault. I don't care. I like you as a person. Such a mistake should not be borne by you. Sister 11, I didn't protect you well. Nan 11 looked at his sincere expression calmly, and couldn't help thinking in her heart that he was really pretending. Whether it was his expression or his tone, he sounded like a loving man. If she was still the silly Nan 11 who threw herself at him, she would definitely be moved by his words, and then the two of them would hug and cry like a pair of lovers in distress, and the heaven and earth would be moved by their tragic love. Gu Qingshu Nan 11 lowered her eyes and said indifferently, I have made up my mind, don't have any more illusions about me. After that, she turned to look at Madame Nan, Mom, I have a lot to say to you, let's go back to Tingyu Tower first. Madame Nan nodded, took her hand and turned to walk out. Sister 11, Gu Qingshu called her without giving up. Nan 11 did not even turn her head, and left directly with Madame Nan. Before Yin Yu and Yin Shuang followed, they turned to look at Gu Qingshu. Their eyes were as cold as ice, and they seemed to carry a warning of murderous intent, which made Gu Qingshu's blood freeze, and the coldness ran directly from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. After the two maids followed Nan 11 away, Gu Qingshu loosened his clenched hands and turned to look at Nan Xingzi, father-in-law. Nan Xingzi looked deeply in the direction where Nan 11 left. Don't you think Nan 11 has changed too much after coming back this time? Gu Qingshu nodded. Sister 11 must have been threatened by the regent, so she said that on purpose. Yes, Nan, you must have assassinated her because of the regent's plan. You couldn't have assassinated her sister. They have such a good relationship, how could you or, how could she? In short, he never believed that Nan 11 had changed her mind about him. How could the little girl who only saw him in her eyes since she was 12 years old and loved him wholeheartedly for 4 years change her mind about him? Sisters have a good relationship. Nan Xingzi looked at her with a half-smile. Qingshu, you don't want to have the best of both worlds, do you? Gu Qingshu's face froze, then he lowered his brows and said humbly, Father-in-law, you are joking. I only like Sister 11, and I love Sister Yu because I love her too. How could I have the best of both worlds? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 19. Yin Shuang walking to a secluded place far away from Songhe courtyard, Nan 11 turned around and ordered, what I just said to Gu Qingshu, you find a few people to spread it, saying that I have cancelled the engagement with Gu Qingshu, and Gu Qingshu also agreed. Paused, remember not to find people from the regent's palace. Yin Shuang hesitated for a moment, Mr. Gu doesn't seem to agree. It's not up to him, Nan 11 sneered. The daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion wants to cancel the engagement, how can he disagree? Just now in Songhe courtyard, she didn't stab him with a knife, which was already restrained. She still wanted to have an engagement? It would be best if no one would ever bring them together again from now on. Now she felt sick just hearing Gu Qingshu's name. Yin Shuang nodded, yes, turned and left. The mother and daughter returned to Tingyu Tower, dismissed the servants, and sat down in front of the carved window in the inner room. 11 Madame Nan looked at her thoughtfully, are you really going to break off the engagement with Gu Qingshu? More true than pearl. Madame Nan did not object to her breaking off the engagement with Gu Qingshu. She was just wondering why her daughter's attitude suddenly changed after only being in the regent's palace for more than a month. After all, she saw with her own eyes that her daughter had been devoted to Gu Qingshu for 4 years, and she was not living well in the regent's palace. It's hard to describe all these things. Nan 11 took a deep breath, raised a relieved smile at the corner of her mouth, and took her mother's arm. I don't have any feelings for him now. Don't worry, mother, I was not forced, nor did I have any unspeakable secrets. My daughter really hated Gu Qingshu and wished he would die immediately. But Gu Qingshu couldn't die yet, because there was no sufficient reason. Nan 11 knew that the self-righteous Gu Qingshu would never believe what she had just said to him. He would automatically imagine that Nan 11 was coerced by the regent, or that Nan 11 deliberately acted for the regent's maid, thinking that Nan 11 would never let him go. But it was true. Gu Qingshu was talented and had a good appearance among men. He could say sweet words easily, and he had occupied the most beautiful years of an ignorant girl for 4 years. How could such a relationship change so easily? But Nan 11 wanted him to deceive himself. The more he didn't believe it, the more she could return to him everything he had done to her in his previous life. And the most important thing right now was not Gu Qingshu. Nan 11 said, "Mother, where does Dad's mistress live?" When mentioning the mistress, Madame Nan's face instantly turned cold. "She's just a prostitute who sells her body, let's not talk about it." People are born into different classes, but the way to make a living is often beyond one's control and not something one can choose, so she never looks down on those who sell their smiles in brothels. Just like she doesn't think that she should be inferior to these powerful people just because she was born in a merchant family, there is nothing shameful if she walks upright and has a clear conscience. But whether Lu sells her smiles or her body, it is her livelihood. It is her freedom to choose to devote herself to the Prime Minister, and it is also her own decision to give birth to a daughter for the Prime Minister. However, if she has unrealistic thoughts and wants her daughter to enter the Prime Minister's mansion legitimately, it would be a bit presumptuous. The prosperity and splendor of the Prime Minister's mansion today is largely due to the efforts of her, the original wife. No matter how shameful she is, she cannot watch a daughter born to a brothel prostitute enter the Prime Minister's mansion openly and enjoy the fruits of his labor, seizing the honor that can only belong to Sier. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 20. Mrs. Nan poured tea for Nan 11 and said with worry, 11 how is the regent? Is he really as evil as the rumors outside? These days you have been to the regent's house, mother has not been worried every day. You dad, that coward, wouldn't dare to confront the regent, if it weren't for Mom. The regent is very good. Nan 11 smiled lightly, with a bit of warmth in her eyes. He is a very good person. There are many exaggerations in the rumors outside, but they are just because they are afraid of his iron-blooded wrists and hands. It's just military power here. Mrs. Nan was suspicious. Really? Really? Nan 11 nodded and was silent for a moment. Mom, I want to marry the regent. What? Mrs. Nan was surprised. Marry the regent? Nan 11 smiled faintly. Mom, don't be so surprised. I have been kidnapped by the regent and taken into the palace for more than a month. A girl has been kidnapped by a powerful man. Her innocence has been lost. Who else can I marry if I don't marry the regent? But Mrs. Nan's face changed slightly. But you. The spring breeze is warm, the birds are singing and the flowers are fragrant. The man with a dignified and handsome appearance stood silently outside the window, his thin lips pursed tightly, his eyes downcast, and the color in his eyes could not be seen. 11 do you like the regent? Mrs. Nan frowned. The regent has such a noble status, and he will definitely have many wives and concubines in the future. You. Mom, he doesn't know how. Nan 11's tone was calm, but revealed an inexplicable firmness and trust. Wrong. You is different from his father, and he is different from Gu Qingshu. He has a noble status, and he doesn't want any kind of woman? But not everyone has this kind of self-control since I haven't been close to women for so many years. Mrs. Nan was still puzzled. Why do you suddenly want to marry the regent? Do you like him? Like it? Nan 11 smiled faintly. I can't say I like it yet, but I don't hate it either. Hearing this, Mrs. Nan became even more puzzled. You have liked Gu Qingshu for 4 years, but you just don't hate the regent. Then why? Gu Qingshu is a hypocrite and is not worthy of my liking. Nan 11's tone was suddenly cold. her eyes full of disgust and hatred. I have known the regent for a short time, and I can slowly like him in the future. And my mother doesn't think the regent looks good. He is good looking and powerful. Is he the best choice for a husband? The best choice for husband? The tight corners of the man's lips outside the window were slightly loosened, and his noble profile seemed to be glowing with a soft light. Mrs. Nan was still wary and lowered her voice. The regent holds great power, and the emperor is very afraid of him now. If anything happens in the future, 11er, you will also be implicated. Mother Nan 11 smiled faintly, her eyebrows clear and clear. When people live in this world, they face risks at any time. Rong Yu is good to me, and I will be good to him. The current emperor is not Rong Yu's opponent. He wants to scheme. Rong Yu also has to see if he has that ability. 11er, Mrs. Nan's face changed slightly. Be careful, the walls have ears. It doesn't matter. Nan 11 didn't care if anyone heard her. Even if there is an eventuality, I would be willing to die with a man like Rong Yu. You have died once in your previous life, right? Why not do it again in this life? Moreover, Nan 11 is no longer the Nan 11 in her previous life. She knows in her heart that as long as she does not become Rong Yu's weakness, it will not be easy for anyone to plot against them. She wanted to see, in this life, would the emperor be able to get rid of the powerful regent, or would the regent bring down the emperor?